What's up, guys? It's me, Grey Wolf, back to do another video here for you. Today's video is going to be on how to manually program your ESC settings for the Castle Sidewinder ESC. A friend of mine from Facebook asked me about well, he was just asking in general. We started chatting back and forth about it. I told him I would try to do a video for him last night. It didn't happen last night, sorry. I'm trying to get it into today. Just been really busy. So he's not the only one. This is actually a question that I've answered on multiple occasions, and it's kind of painstaking to try to describe this to somebody, especially in writing. So I'm making the video. Now, before I did this video, I was like, you know what, there's probably 1,000 videos out there on how to do this or whatever. I can probably just find a good link and link it to him, right? Well, I spent about, 10 minutes or so browsing the internet, and I found several written descriptions on how to do it, which were just terrible. I was like, I couldn't even follow along with them that very well, and I already kind of know how to do it. Now, I typically use a Castle link, or the field link, one of the two. So I'm not, I'm not an expert. Like, I don't have the flashes and stuff, the LED flashes memorized or anything, because I've only done this a couple of times when I was without a field link or whatever. But I knew how to do it, and trying to read their descriptions was just painful. So then I went to YouTube, and I was like, well, surely there's a good YouTube video out here. There are some videos out there. I did not see one right off the bat, and again, I didn't spend a lot of time looking, but nothing jumped right out at me as being a good guide. The best one I saw was actually from Red Cat. Some guy from Red Cat actually tried to do it, and he did a decent job, but it was still a little hard to follow along with, because he wasn't showing the LED. You couldn't really see the LED beeps, or at least I couldn't on my little tablet. Maybe if I went to a bigger computer, it may have been better. I don't know. But on my little tablet, I could not see the LED beeps. So that's one thing I'm going to try to remedy with my video. I'm going to try to focus in on the LED flashes as closely as possible, so you can really see it and what it's doing. The other thing that I didn't like about his video was I felt like he should have explained how it worked before he actually started trying to show you, because if you don't kind of have a basic understanding of what he's doing, it doesn't really make sense. He can show you, but it's I don't know, I found it hard to follow, and I already know how to do it. So if I'm finding it kind of hard to follow, somebody that had no clue how to do it would surely struggle immensely with it. So I don't know. Hopefully this one will be a really good, easy to follow tutorial. So anyway, with that being said, there's a couple things you're going to need. You got to have your ESC, obviously. You need a LiPo hooked up to it. Turn the ESC off. Hook the battery up. You can do this without the motor attached, but you will not hear the corresponding beeps that go along with the LED flashes. Most people are probably aware of this, but if you're not aware of this already, the beeps that you hear from your Castle ESC are actually not from the ESC. The sounds are actually made by the motor. The ESC sends signals to the motor that make the motor chime. Not entirely sure how they managed to make it do that, but it does. So I tested it. You can actually program it without the motor, but it's easier if the motor's attached, because then, like I said, you have an audio cue as well as a visual cue to go by. Now, my beeps might not be very loud, because for some reason my Castle 1410 doesn't beep as loud as it used to. I'm not sure why. The motor works perfectly fine, but for whatever reason the motor doesn't beep nearly as loud. It's like half as loud as it used to be. So if you don't really hear the beeps, I apologize. Hopefully you will. But at any rate, so let me give you, oh, there's one other thing you're going to need. You got to have your driver's ed guide. This is a must because there's 9 different options in here. Like option number 1 that you see right here is the brake and reverse type. And for each option, there's going to be a number of settings. Now, for the first option, there happens to be 3 settings. The first setting is reverse lockout. And reverse lockout is actually how it is actually the default setting that comes set from the factory, which is why it says default in parentheses. Then setting 2 for the first option would be forward and brake only with no reverse. And by the way, the setting description starts on page 22. So then if you go over to 23, you'll see setting number 3 for option 1 is forward, brake, and reverse. This is what most people are going to want. But at any rate, so you got your book, you got your electronics. If your electronics and your motor and everything is still in your kit, Castle does urge you in the driver's ed guide to remove your pinion, because apparently sometimes after certain settings are made or whatever, I don't know, I guess there's been incidences of the motor kicking in or whatever and the kit taken off. I don't know, but that's what it suggests. And the guides that I saw on the internet also, they all did mention that, so, or most of them at least mentioned that. So I'm assuming it's pretty important that you remove the pinion if it's still in your kit. So, all right, now let me get into the description of what you're going to see. So each setting is represented by 2 different series of LED flashes. It'll be a series of LED flashes, a short pause, and then another series of LED flashes. And it goes through each of the options, each of the 9 options in order. So once you get it into programming mode, the very first option that it's going to want to set is 1. Once you choose the whatever setting you want for option 1, it's going to go to 2, and then to 3, and then to 4, so on and so forth till you've gone through all 9. And so, okay, so it starts with the first option first. So the very first thing, and then it always starts out with the first setting first as well. So the very first thing you're going to hear, or see rather, you'll hear the corresponding beeps if your motor's hooked up. The first thing you're going to see is you're going to see 1 LED flash because it's option 1. Then there's going to be a short pause, and then you're going to see 1 additional LED flash. Now these are going to be yellow LED flashes. So essentially what the ESC is telling you is it's telling you, okay, we're on option 1 and we're on setting 1 for option 1. That's why the first beep tells you the option, the second set of beeps tells you, or flashes, whatever you want to call them, tells you what setting. And it goes through each setting in order just like it does the options. Now, so when you're on option 1, setting 1, it's basically asking you yes or no. Do you want setting 1 for option 1? Yes or no? The way you say yes is you pull the trigger back on your transmitter just like you would if you wanted the kit to go forward. In order to say no to that option, you apply the brake on your transmitter. Okay? So the very first, once you get into programming mode, the very first thing you're gonna hear and see is you're gonna hear a beep, followed by a short pause and a second beep. So it's saying, okay, we're on option 1. Do you want setting 1? Yes or no? You choose yes or no with your trigger, and then it'll go to setting 2. It'll go to setting 2. So then the next thing, once you say no, the next thing you're gonna see is you're gonna see one flash, followed by a short pause, followed by 2 flashes. That's basically saying, okay, we're still on option 1. Now we're going to choose yes or no on option 2, or on setting 2, which setting 2 is, according to the driver's guide, is forward and brake only. Well, we don't want that one either, so we're going to go ahead and choose no. We're going to apply the brake and choose no. Then it's going to go to the next setting under option 1. So then you're going to hear 1 beep because we're still on option 1, and then you're going to hear a short pause, and then you're going to hear 3 more beeps. And I realize I'm using beep and flash interchangeably because it just depends on whether you're looking at the LEDs or listening to the beeps, whatever. So setting 3 for option 1 is what we want, because setting 3 is forward, brake, and reverse. At least that's what I would choose in this particular case. So I would pull the throttle back to say yes for that option. Now once you do that, it's going to go on to the next setting, which is setting 2. So you're going to hear 2 beeps followed by a short pause and then 1 beep, which signifies that, okay, now we're on option 2, which is, option 2 is the brake amount. And it's asking you yes or no, do you want setting 1 for option 2? And I think you can kind of get the gist of that from there. So let me change camera angles here, and then I'll come right back and we'll go into how to get it into programming mode, and I'll actually demonstrate setting a couple of the settings for you. Alright guys, I'm back. I've got the camera set up directly over the ESC, and I'm actually going to unplug the fan for this because I don't want the fan noise interfering. I don't want the fan noise interfering with your ability to hear the beeps along with the LED blinks. So in order to get to the programming stage, most of you guys are probably familiar with how to calibrate your ESC with your transmitter, which in order to do that you basically just hold back on the throttle as if you were giving it, wide open throttle, and then you turn the ESC on. It causes it to go through a series of blinks, at which point when it goes red, when the LED starts flashing red, it's set the throttle, and then it wants you to push the throttle forward all the way to like full brake, at which point it'll set the brake after you've held it there for a couple seconds, and then the LED will go yellow, at which point you move the throttle to the neutral position and leave it there until it registers, and then it'll finally activate and kick in and be able to use it, right? Most of you guys are familiar with that. Well, in order to get it into programming mode, you're going to do kind of the same thing, only we're going to do it slightly differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold back on the trigger like I'm giving it a wide open throttle, and I'm going to turn the ESC on, but this time, see right here is where it would set the throttle, and now it's asking to set the brake, but I'm not letting off of the throttle, I'm keeping the throttle held down. Now it's going to blink a bunch of times, and then it'll eventually go into this mode that it's in right now. Which I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but essentially the red LED and the green LED are lit. The yellow one in the middle is flashing. Once you've gotten to that point, then you can let your finger off the trigger. Now, I can keep my finger on this trigger and keep it in the same exact mode the whole time, and it won't hurt anything. So you can just keep holding it and holding it and holding it until you're 100% sure that you have the right mode going. So once you're sure, then you can let off. It'll blink a few times, and then it's going to start in with the yellow blinks that we talked about earlier. As you notice right now, it's doing one blink with a short pause in between, and then another single blink. This means that it's on, the first blink means it's on setting 1, or it's on option 1 rather. The second blink is asking you yes or no, do you want to set setting 1 for option 1. And again, option 1 is the brake and reverse type. Now we don't want option 1 because option 1 is reverse lockout. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to apply full brake in order to say no to option 1 for setting 1. So you saw it flash red a bunch of times. It'll keep flashing red till you let off of the brake. Once you let off the brake, now you're going to see it's advanced to doing a single blink with a pause and then 2 blinks or beeps, whatever you want to call them. Single blink, double blink. Single blink, double blink. So now it's saying, okay, we're still on option 1. Do you want to say yes or no to setting 2? Setting 2 is brake and forward and brake only. Again, this is not the option I want. I want forward, brake, and reverse. So I'm going to say no to option 2. Again, I'm going to apply the throttle, or I'm sorry, I'm going to apply the brake full until I get the red LEDs beeping, and then I'm going to let go. Now, once I've let go, now you'll see we're getting 1 blink, a pause, and 3 blinks. One pause, 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. So now it's asking yes or no, do you want setting 3 for option 1? In this case we do, because setting 3 is the forward, brake, and reverse. So I'm going to give it full throttle this time, and you'll see the green come up and start blinking. Again, you can hold green down, you can hold the throttle down as long as you want. It's going to keep doing it until you let go, at which point it's going to advance to the next setting, because this is the last option. So I've let go of it. Now what we're going to see is 2 blinks, pause, 1 blink. 2 blinks, 1 blink. 2 blinks, 1 blink. Now it's saying, okay, now we've moved on to to option 2, which is brake amount. And for option 2, there are 4 different settings. The first setting is 25%. I'm sorry, the first setting is 25% of full brake power. The second setting is 50% of full brake power. The third setting is 75% full brake, and the fourth setting is 100%. Now, according to the book, the default is set to 50%, but I like running with a little more than 50%. I like to run with 75%. So, the first setting for option 2, which is what the ESC is on right now, 2 blinks followed by 1 blink, is 25% braking power. Well, I don't want 25%, so I'm going to apply the brake to say no, and I'm going to let go, and it's going to go to the next one, which is 2, 2, 2, 2. Now, so the second setting under the second option is 50% brake power. I don't want that either, so again I'm going to say no. I'm going to apply the brake. Once it's set, I'm going to let go. Now we're going to see 2 beeps, 3 beeps, 2 beeps, 3 beeps. This is what we want, because, or at least this is what I want. Now, you may want something different, but this is what I want. I want 75% braking power. So I'm going to say yes to this by holding the throttle in. Now, it's flashing green, so it recognizes it. I can let go of the throttle. Now we're going to go on to the next option. So now you're going to see 3 blinks followed by 1 blink. 3 blinks, 1 blink. 3 blinks, 1 blink. This means we're on set the option 3, and it's asking yes or no for setting 1. So option 3 is reverse amount. And under option 3, reverse amount, we have 4 settings. We have 25% reverse power, 50% reverse power, which is the default from the factory. Setting 3 is 75% reverse power, and setting 4 is 100% reverse power. Now, I personally like 50% reverse in my kits. I feel that's plenty fast enough for reverse. So, but what it's asking us right now is option 1 under, or I'm sorry, it's asking us yes or no for setting 1 under option 3, which is 25%. Well, I don't want 25%, so I'm going to say no by applying the brake. Now that the brake has been applied, I can let go. And now we're going to see 3 blinks, followed by 2 blinks. 3 blinks, 2 blinks. Now it's asking us if we want setting 2 under option 3. Remember, the first set of blinks is the option, the second set of blinks is the setting for that option. In this case, I do want setting 2 for option 3 because that's 50% reverse, and that's what I like. So I'm going to apply full throttle. My green LEDs are blinking, so I can let go. And now we're on to 4 and 1. Option 4, setting 1. Option 4, setting 1. Now option 4 is punch control. Under punch control, there are 5 settings for punch control. You got high punch control, which is very limited acceleration. That's setting 1. You got setting 2, which is medium acceleration limiting. Setting 3 is low. That's only light acceleration limiting. And then setting 4 is the lowest amount of acceleration limiting, or the lightest amount, however you want to say it. And then option 5 is disabled. If you don't want any punch control, then you would want option 5. You'd want to disable it. It's disabled by default, and for this particular ESC, that's what I'm going to go ahead and set up, because that's what I like. I like this was in my Rustler. It probably won't go back in my Rustler now, but if it was going back in my Rustler, that's what I'd want. I would want it disabled because I like popping wheelies and stuff. So right now it's asking yes or no for setting 1. Under option 4, I'm going to say no by applying the brake. And then I can let go. 4 beeps followed by 2 beeps. I don't want setting 2 either for option 4, so I'm going to say no again. I can let go. 4 beeps, 3 beeps, 4 beeps, 3 beeps. I don't want setting 3 either, so I'm going to say no again, which is going to take us to 4 beeps, 4 beeps, 4 beeps, 4 beeps. This is setting, it's asking yes or no for option 4, setting 4. Don't want setting 4, I want setting 5, so I'm going to say no again. I can let go. Now 4 beeps, 5 beeps. 4 beeps, 5 beeps. This is the option I want. This is disabled. So I'm going to say yes by applying the throttle. Now I can let go because I saw my green LEDs. Now we're on to option 5, which is drag brake. Drag brake, setting 1 for option 5, drag brake, is drag brake off, which is what I want. So if you watch them, you'll see it's 5 beeps followed by 1 beep. That's setting 1. It's asking yes or no for setting 1, and under drag brake, option 5. This is what I want, so I'm going to say yes by applying the throttle. And I can let go. It's going to go on to 6 beeps, and then 1 beep, followed by 1 beep for option 6, setting 1. I'm not going to sit here and go through them. I think you guys have more than gotten the point by now. You can keep going through there and set all 9 options that way, but you don't have to. So yeah, you can turn it off whenever you get to the setting that you want. You have to go through them sequentially until you get to whatever it was that you were wanting to change. Like say you wanted to change option 5, which is drag brake. You wanted to change that. Well, you would have to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4 and tell it yes or no, you know, for each option step by step till you get to 5. Once you get to 5, and let's say you get to 5, you set the setting you want for 5, and you don't need to change 6, 7, 8, or 9. Then you can just simply turn the ESC off at that point, and then turn it back on to reset it. At which point it will retain whatever the previous settings for 6, 7, 8, and 9 were, plus you know, whatever it was that you changed. So, at any rate, I hope that clearly demonstrates how to program a Sidewinder ESC manually using just the LED flashes and the beeps. If it doesn't fully explain it and you think there's other things that I needed to explain, or you can think of a better way I should have explained something, let me know. You know, if I get enough feedback, you know, on a particular suggestion or whatever, then you know, maybe I'll come back and revisit the video and try to make it a little bit better, because it's definitely for somebody. And you know, on Facebook I see this a lot. On Facebook, there's a lot of new people to RCs on Facebook, and they tend to get a little overwhelmed, you know, when you first get into the hobby. You know, it can be a little overwhelming. There's a lot of things you got to learn, a lot of information, and it's a very common thing that I see people do, especially on Facebook. The new guys, they'll go out and they'll get sick of running, you know, they'll get sick of burning up their VXLs or whatever, and they'll go out and buy a Castle system, and then they don't realize that you need a Castle link or a field link in order to really program it. And if you have a Castle link, I strongly suggest you get the field link, because then, like I said, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but you can use it with the computer or without the computer. If you use it with the computer, there's a lot more stuff that you can do with your ESC. I mean, you still basically have the same 9 settings, but one of the big things that you can do is you can set throttle and brake curves if you actually have the link and you have it hooked up to a computer. And you can also flash, if you actually have a Castle branded ESC, you can flash whatever the latest firmware is to the ESC as well to update it. Now, if it's rebadged, like if it's a rebadged HPI ESC, even though it's made by Castle, actually I think Lozi has a rebadged version of the MMP. All the rebadged ones, you can still use your Castle link to program them, but the firmware in them is not the same. So you're not going to get firmware updates like you will with the actual Castle systems, but you can use the Castle link to set the parameters. So at any rate, I hope this really demonstrates and clearly how to do this. If you have any more questions or comments, feel free to visit my Facebook page. You can leave me questions and comments there. My Facebook page is also loaded with RC pics. It's where I keep all my RC pics. So if you want, check that out. That's www.facebook.com/GrayWolfStudios74. Or you could also send me questions and comments to my email at graywolfstudios74@gmail.com. Peace.